I'm really pleased to have you join as our sort of nice interlude in the middle of a lot of policy chat. And so first off, I was going to say that these bans, we're looking at the negative side of, oh gosh, it's a big change for our businesses. How can we sort this out? But actually, we've got to remember that those items were highlighted out of litter surveys on beaches. So I wanted to ask you what the sea and the beachfront means to you in terms of your business.
Well, we are literally on the beachfront, and actually sometimes the beach is inside us if we get a really special day. But no, we went on to Vegware and came away from all polystyrene. Gee whiz, I think it was about 2011. I think it was. It was a long time ago, and it was kind of ahead of its time. But I felt with it being right on the beach, we needed to be kind of careful what was going one down our drain, so our cleaner chemicals, and the other one was the rubbish. It's all very well us being looking after what we do, but when it goes out the shop, I can't control what the people do with it. So at least by it being a product that was less harmful, that was kind of my introduction to it.
Mm-hmm. And have you used polystyrene and plastic cutlery in the past?
Plastic cutlery in the bay, I would have probably about the 2010 mark, probably. Until I started using yourselves.
Yeah.
Not used any polystyrene in the bay at all since 2006 we opened. I would have probably used plastic lids on cups and on like mushy pea pots and stuff like that. But the pots that we were using would have had plastic lining inside them. So even though they were paper on the outside, they were plastic coated. But we've been away from that in a long time.
Yeah, so I see you, Calum, as like a voice from the past and the future all at the same time, because there's businesses in England that are just having to make this same change that you've already made a long time ago. So I'm interested in hearing from you about that. So have you noticed any of sort of performance benefits in terms of the actual food? Because, sure, there's the environmental side, but can you tell me a bit about you as a chef and what you've noticed about the food itself?
Yeah, so the product in polystyrene is a disaster. Realistically, the only people using that is all to do with cost. There's no other real reason. There's no benefit at all in using polystyrene. I went onto these boxes. Like my favourite box is the picture there, the number 3. I think it's quite classic. I remember being at an awards ceremony and I was talking to someone about it. It was the SRA Awards. This was a long time ago. And I said, if you went to a sandwich shop and there was a sandwich in that box like that, they're not going to be using cheap bread from the supermarket. The likelihood is it's good quality bread they're using. I think it gives off a better image of your business as well. But the quality does stay better, for sure.
Yeah. We've heard people talk about the aspect of condensation as well. Obviously, expanded polystyrene, it's got really good thermal properties. So, we know why a lot of people want to use it from that point of view. But then there's the trapping of the condensation that ends up for soggy chips and, the batter isn't as crispy and so on.
Yeah, the number 3s in that are great boxes, to be honest, because they have got a coating in them so they can take some liquid. So if there's curry sauce or things like that in there, so the wet product can go in it. And I remember when I took a sample off you years ago, I put water inside it and I thought, right, I'll check that later on in the shift and I'll just see how it's gone. Complete forgot. And I came in the morning and it was still in one piece. All right, the corners were getting wet, but we're talking like 18 hours. So it was like total, it was a mistake, but it was actually a good thing. But the product does stay far better than this. It doesn't sweat. I think because it folds over like an envelope, it allows the steam out.
Last question for you, Calum. Have you got any advice for businesses moving away from polystyrene and other plastics now?
I think basically what you've got to do is you've got to think. It's got to happen anyway. So there's no point fighting it, okay? I'm always a believer of doing things before you get told to do them. It's a lot less painful. But one thing that I teach a lot of my clients is that it takes more energy to try and fight a system than it does just to adopt it. and you can focus, put all your positive focus into your business moving forward, selling fish and chips, selling sandwiches, selling whatever you sell, rather than try to find a loophole to not have to use polystyrene. It's ridiculous. Just have to make it